All right, welcome to Out of the Blue from the Block M Podcast Network, part of the Fan First Sports Network. This podcast supports romance, the majesty of cinema, and the sanctity of enjoying a 10 a.m. beer on a college football Saturday, only 75 days away, mind you. I am Jared Stormer of the Block M Podcast Network and MaisonBrew.com. With me, as always, is Andy Bailey, my hetero life mate. Andy Bailey, a humble blacksmith from the countryside who once led the ferocious defense of Jerusalem. His enemies shall know his quality, should he ever meet them. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, brother. How are you this week?
Not enough time on this podcast to describe how well I am, my friend. Great time in Hawaii. A little back-to-back Mexico City into Hawaii. And now we're returning back to reality. The cold, hard slap of reality, as you called it, has struck me across the face. But hey, we have this podcast and we have good sports still happening, which is great. 2 series still going on. And now the countdown, I don't quite start it yet, but we're about 15 days from where I'm really going to start counting down to college football.
I think mine honestly kind of ramps up as like the football team's practices do. Like, right now it's kind of like a little conditioning, a little this and that. And then like, a little more practice time here in July. By the time full pads are around, I'm salivating for football.
You hear that first crunch of the pad, even if it's just recorded and it just sends a jolt through your spine. It's like hitting just smelling salts, a little bit of Tiger Balm. It gets you right back where you need to be. Cannot wait for it. We're going to talk some college football tonight on this podcast as we start to look ahead. I think we'll be talking a lot of college football now that we are 75 days away. It's a lot of previews coming up, and tonight is no different. We're going to do a draft of the most likely sophomore candidates to take a big leap this season, which a great idea by you. Excited for this one.
Yeah, we'll set some parameters around it to get rid of the obvious choices and the players that kind of broke out last year and talk about some of the depth players that we could really see contributing this season.
All right, we are back. We are righteous men. College football is very good, and we have a very good segment here that you came up with, and I'm really excited about. And talk us through what you were thinking here when you came up with the sophomore leap draft for this week's episode.
Yeah, man. So there's been a lot of talk about the incoming freshman class, like the potential of Bryce Underwood and Andrew Babalola, like you and I were just doing. There's also a lot of talk about 2026 recruiting, which is like kind of all the football we can get this time of the year. And I often feel like the sophomores at this time, the rising sophomores, kind of get lost in the shuffle. And I thought it would be a fun way to break down and discuss which sophomore is going to make the biggest leap in year 2. And now I want to like kind of clarify that a little bit. So I want us to draft our top 5 breakout guys from the sophomores with the drafting pool as followed. So the 2024 recruiting class had 26 players to enroll, 2 of which have already transferred out, RIP Owen Waffle and Jeremiah Beasley. And I think we also need to remove Jordan Marshall, Andrew Sprague, Hogan Hansen, Mason Curtis, and Dom Nichols, just because they've already made a splash. And I want to talk about more of the guys that we think could be coming up next. That leaves us 19 players to draft from. I'm not going to read them all. We're going to get into the conversation here. But I thought this was a great way to really just kind of look at the glue guys, the guys that are going to be next up, that are going to be some of our favorite players next year, although they're not getting a lot of press right now.
Can I push back on one of those names
Go ahead.
You have removed? Hogan Hansen, 78 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. Is that a splash?
Had a few big catches in the Ohio State game. I feel like it would just be the number 1 pick. And I feel like that would just kind of be lazy. Like, I don't know. I feel like you need to rehash Hogan Hansen here as making a leap.
Okay. No, that's fair. All right. Just wanted to talk that one out. Other than that, we're talking the 2024 class, which was overall on 247, the number 19 class. Composite rank was around 16th. Class that you and I really liked. You mentioned a couple of transfers out. One of the highlights here was Jaden Davis and that one. Jordan Marshall, the guy that you and I planted our flag on, as probably the guy we were most excited about in this class. We've already talked about Andrew Sprague on this podcast, who we're both very high on, me extremely high on. And overall class that I think it's kind of like a filler class a little bit. Like, this isn't the one that necessarily you're building your next national championship team on. That's probably the class coming in this year. Yeah. But you're going to expect a lot of these guys to contribute in key locations. And there's some guys I'm still really excited about. So this is a good exercise.
It's the transition year class. Like, look back, it's like similar to Harbaugh's 2015 haul, where it's like, okay, stepping in late, a little bit behind the 8 ball in the recruiting process. Things are shuffled around. You lose some recruits, you gain some here. So that's kind of where it is. But it's like these guys can also be the backbones of something really important moving forward. And again, like a lot of them are just kind of going under the radar right now, man. There's a lot of talent left in this class.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So how do you want to do pick order? Would you like first pick? You want to flip for it?
Brother, you get first pick. You were in Hawaii. You deserve it. You deserve all good things.
Thanks, brother. You're too kind. Yeah, I was really struggling it out there in Hawaii. So thanks for digging deep in your heart and trying to mend my wounds. Now this is great. I'm happy to take first pick here. Part of me wants to go a little bit weird here with it, and I think I'm going to go against my archetype and change it up a little bit. I think most of the listeners would probably be like, this is going to be Josiah Edmond, but it's going to be Cole Sullivan for me. I think that should be the first pick here. A position of need, a guy that I honestly like. I made a mistake in our spring game draft and was like, yeah, this guy had an edge. And I think it's just because I look at the body type and like you see him out there and you're like, this guy could line up a little bit all over, more like a chess piece, which we've seen with Wink Martindale, we've seen with recent Michigan defenses. Just a very useful player that with a year in this weight program has a little bit of Jake Ryan energy to him. One of my favorite freshman players of all time, one of my favorite freshman seasons. Cole Sullivan played in 12 games last year.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he didn't have a ton of stats, like no sacks, no TFLs, nothing like that, but got on the field early. They obviously like this guy. Ceiling wise, there's two other guys that I think there's actually several other guys that have a higher ceiling than this guy. There's several on this list that I think have a higher ceiling, but I'm trying to get a guy right here that's going to contribute. At the very worst, this is a special teams player and a depth linebacker.
Yeah, he was the rookie of the year last year on special teams. And going back even further at the spring game, he was all over the place and he'd only been on campus for 2 months. Like, he's just a football player, man. Like, he's worked on his body. He's put on that weight like you talked about. And he's going to be, I think, the green dot in 2 years. Like, I think this year he's going to get on the field. He's going to be in some rotations. But I think in 2 years, it's he and Troy Bowles holding down the middle once Barham and Houseman go to the next level. And I feel really good about that. Like, talk about depth later. But I mean, Cole Sullivan was one of the guys I was looking at for the first pick as well. So I love what you did there, man. I think he's like talent-wise, his ceiling's low, but he could be an all-conference player because of how hard he plays, and it feels like how natural football comes to him. Yeah,
like a cross between Jake Ryan and Joe Bolden or something like that, where it's just like, okay, this guy is not going to hurt you. Ben Gideon's a great comp as well. Like, this guy's not going to hurt you and actually like has some upside, really strong. Like, you look up, it's like, oh, did he have 92 tackles and 4.5 for loss like last year? Played every game, like didn't miss a snap. Like, yeah, and then you're talking about just like a really, really strong, not all-timer Wolverine, but somebody we'll certainly hold as beloved. He's trending that direction for me.
Yeah. First pick to me, I'm taking the other name you mentioned, Josiah Edmond. JoJo Edmond at corner. I mean, played in 8 games last year sneakily. If you'd give me the over-under at 6.5, I probably would have gone under. But the 8 games really sneaks up on you. Got some valuable snaps, not just on special teams, on the defensive side of the ball. Michigan likes to rotate and kind of hockey change out that secondary at times. So I think he's going to get a lot of run this year, especially as some of the first-year players like Shamari Earls and Jaden Sanders get up to speed. I think you could have a big year, man. Just like a big year contributing. I gotta clarify. Not a big year like a Mikey Sainristil or a Will Johnson, but a big year in the vein of like what Wesley Walker had, where it's like he's not a minus when he's on the field. He steps in, there's not a drop-off, very serviceable, and I think that's what he's going to be this season.
This was the 2nd highest rated player in Indiana. He's the 10th highest rated cornerback in the class. He's 6'1". About $190 now. That sounds like a cornerback to me. Extremely high ceiling here. Like, this guy could take the leap this year, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you didn't draft Josiah Edmond number 1? I could totally see that. It was between those two players for me. It makes sense that they go number 1 and number 2. Gets a little more interesting after that, but I think I'm going to go ahead and take – do I want to – yeah, now I'll go back to my type. I'll go back to my type here, a guy that I've really overdrafted in the last couple spring game drafts. I'm going to take safety Jacob Oden here.
Your
I'm going to
boy.
stick my boy here. I'm going to stick with my belief in players that come into a class early on and are leaders of the class. Like, he's a film room guy. This is a guy that's like committed to the program. We'll see how long that lasts. If a bunch of guys pass him up, if all of a sudden he can't beat out Mason Curtis, maybe it's a transfer guy. So a little bit of a risk here taking him. But it almost has to be the year or this guy could transfer. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, if Oden's not getting on the field this year, it's like, this guy's too talented not to stay here. As much of a like great asset he was once he committed to the team and recruiting other guys, which I just love seeing. I love the leadership. I love the body type. Like, this looks like a safety. This looks like a guy that can go out there and play. He's not quite Zeke Berry big, but I mean, at 6'1", 195, I think he's actually at like 200 now in this updated. I'll have to pull up the updated height, weight here. But I'm just buying into the traits. I'm buying into the leadership. I'm buying into that archetype of players that have come into Michigan and been like the primary recruiters of other guys, and those guys tend to hit. So I could be proven wrong here. This guy could be transferred by the end of this sentence, because all of a sudden it's like Mason Curtis is the dude and not going anywhere.
That room is just so crowded. Like, with Mason Curtis, with Hillman, with Jaden Mangum, Metcalf, and then not to mention the freshman coming in. Like, it's just a complete dogfight in there. But the good thing is, like I said about JoJo Edmond, like, they like to rotate, like to keep guys fresh back there. So that's a way for him to make his presence felt. I really want him to hit, man. Like, I just do. Like you say, you like the leaders of the class. You just got to draw into those guys. Like, the complete opposite of Jake Garcia. Like, I'm just drawn to players like Jacob Oden. Like, this is my kind of guy. I love what he's doing here. So I really hope that one pans out. All right, to me, a lot of ways I can go, and this one's going to tie back in one of our earlier conversations. Hold the ranch, pass the Guarnera sauce, please. I'm going to take Jake Guarnera.
This is tremendous work. Talk me through it. The Guarnera sauce is a great nickname. All right, I mean, lock that in.
I mean, so a lot of buzz around him last year as a freshman. Very quietly played in 5 games and burned his red shirt, which was not something I would have anticipated. Interior offensive lineman for Michigan, listed at 6'4", 317 in the spring, and has kind of been rumored as one of the guys, along with Nathan Afobe, as the reason why Michigan didn't pursue a center in the transfer portal. And perhaps he overtakes some there. Maybe it's Afobe, maybe it's Guarnera, maybe Crippen goes down with an injury, maybe something happens, but offensive line always suffers injuries, and you want to bet on guys like this, the high upside young guys that they burned red shirts for him. They don't do that for nothing. So it's like, okay, can he find his way on there? Is this offensive line set? Not in the slightest. So I see the path to him getting on the field and contributing.
I like this. I liked how we've kind of rotated here. Like, took a guy that I'm very confident is going to play a lot. You went upside, then I went back upside. You went back with like confidence of a guy that's going to see the field. And we see a lot of these guys come through Michigan, like a Nico Andrighetti, or like, there's probably a better example. You're the examples.
I hope there's a better example than Nico Andrighetti.
There's gotta be. No offense to the Andrighetti family. You sound like there's some of my Italian brethren. But like a player who just kind of sticks around. Vastardis is the high level example.
That's
just like sticks around, and then all of a sudden, like, it's like, hey, there's an opening here on the roster, and like they
honestly, it kind of felt like Braden McGregor in a weird way. Like,
yeah, Afobe is kind of that right now.
Afobe is the third year.
Guy.
Like, yeah, that would be another good example of this.
Yeah, I don't know why Andrighetti came up first. Better name. It's the good name theory.
That is the good name theory. Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah, Guarnera sauce. I'm here for it. All right. I like what you're doing here. I could come back and do something similar there, but I think what I'm going to do is take another swing. It's the question of where I want to do it. I'm going to go with Blake Frazier. I think Frazier, if these tackles are set the way that you and I are speculating they are, that it's Sprague and Andy Babs moving forward, Frazier could kick inside. He's 6'5". Like, this guy could kick inside, and we've certainly had, like, Zach Zinter was 6'4", 6'5".
Trevor Keegan was 6'6".
Trevor Keegan was 6'6" on the inside, and that worked out okay. Blake Frazier can absolutely kick inside. I don't think his future actually is at tackle, so that's what I'm anticipating is Frazier. It might not be this year. There's some other guys in front of him, so this one might take a year to develop, but I think eventually Frazier's on the inside and is a damn good player.
There's a not so distant future where Michigan's tackles are Andrew Babalola and Andrew Sprague. Their guards are Evan Link and Blake Frazier. And then the center's either
massive.
That's what I'm saying. And the center's either Afobe or Guarnera. Like, that's what's on the table. Like, this offensive line has just been replenished with such depth. And going back to the Cole Sullivan spring game from 2 years ago, we saw a lot from Blake Frazier that we liked. He's one of the first players you texted me about. And you rarely text me about offensive linemen right off the bat. Like, normally that's on like second, third viewing. You're like, is it just me, or is like Frazier holding his own despite being so undersized? And I was like, dude, he looks pretty good. And it's kind of that Cole Sullivan thing. Like, even when he didn't have the body, he was out there competing, and just like it stands out.
Yeah. And I don't know if like for this exercise, because we're trying to say sophomore leaps, right? And I think maybe a little bit of the Frazier part goes against the grain of this exercise because of like we just said, this might be a 2-year thing. But that being said, like all it takes is a rolled tweaked ankle and Frazier's in. And then we could see that leap. Like there's only so many offensive linemen that can get on the field. Like he's probably behind Afobe right now.
And injuries always happen on the offensive line.
They do. Like he's going to play. Yeah, he's going to play some snaps, some game, even if it's just like we're blowing out, whoever early on in the season. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with Frazier. Even if it's not this year, I'll feel good about it.
Yes, I love that pick. Really sticking true to yourself. Next one for me, and it's going to be, I got to talk through it a little bit. Running back Micah Kapana here.
Oh, one of our guys here. I like this.
Who I think is RB4 realistically, like in that backfield behind Volker and the big two. But I think his contribution is going to be on special teams. I think that's where he's going to make this leap. This team needs somebody explosive and dynamic back there. And Kapana might be the fastest player on the team. I would love to dive into that further, but I think he's got to be at least in the top 3. Remember last year against Northwestern, they had a special package installed just for him that week to try to get the ball in his hands to do something. And that speaks to what he can do, man. That he made his collegiate debut that week. Like he'd been improving all season, had his chance, kept his red shirt, which I think is important for him long term. But I think this year he could really find a nice role either as a punt or kick returner.
I really like this pick. This is a guy that early on you and I identified before we had really dug in, because there's just always one of these lower recruited running backs that's a dog and just a bear to deal with. And I felt like it was Kapana. I thought like when we got him, I was like, oh, maybe he's more of a bruiser. You dive in and you just nailed it. Like this guy could be the change of pace back, and and he could just do some stuff for you. Like you can find ways to use a guy like this. Again, like not sure about this year because of the Haynes thing and Volker coming in. It could be a next year thing, but like there's a need for 4 running backs on the Michigan Wolverine Big Ten schedule. Like we need them all. We'll take all your running backs. We're going to find a way to get these guys the ball. And I really like what you did here. All right. Now it gets a little different. I think there's like a tier break that happened. So I am going to go with an upside swing. I'm going to go with my next Derek Moore. I think there's a lot in common here. Explosive, big. He's 6'4". He's got the size, highly recruited.
Shout out Randy Sklar.
Let's go. Our boy. I'm going to go Devin Baxter here. Edge rusher Devin Baxter, a guy that early on I pegged as someone to watch coming out of Baltimore. There's been good success. There's another edge rusher coming out of Baltimore in this class as well that you could have chosen between. Devin Baxter's 6'6".
Yeah,
he's not
6'4", 240. He's massive.
He's not Derek Moore size. He's Taco Charlton size. My mistake. This is a very, very large human being. I just think you can find a use for that guy. Great first step. When I watch this guy's tape, need to go back on it again, but I just remember this guy having an explosive first step. That combined with power and size, with what we've seen on the defensive line, this could easily be a guy where it's like, why didn't this guy go higher? Because what we've seen with Michigan is able to do in developing defensive linemen, this guy has all the tools to be great. So Devin Baxter here, calling my shot. Some guys in front of him, again, with a lot of these guys. Like, I don't know if any of the guys that we've drafted so far, none of these guys start this year, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, it's just like it's talking about, again, it's a lot of glue is what we're looking at here. Like if I had to venture a guess for like most likely starter, Josiah Edmond, maybe. Is that who I feel the most confident out of the guys picked so
if
far?
Rod Moore can't go early on and guys have to move around a little bit.
Unless we want to say Capana on special teams.
Capana and Sullivan's starting special teams for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to degrade it, but like in a more contributing role. Like
I gotcha. Sure. Okay. Fair enough. Oh, so you're saying like Micah Capana, primary returner could be.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. A lot of two deep guys, I think, is what we're naming here. Yeah.
And again, it's like very fringe 2-3 where you're going to be, because Devin Baxter has Nate Marshall coming in. You're going to be competing with him. Because I feel like it's pretty set at edge, but like they like to rotate 6 if they can. Like that's always the goal there, to keep people fresh. I feel like they have a good 4 in right now. We'll see where the Cam Brandt stuff is, but I feel like that top 3 is big, but the 4 feels set. So he's going to have opportunities. And that's the one thing I think we are both hitting at here with offensive line, edge, secondary especially, and offensive line. Like opportunities are either an injury away or a rotation away, because that's how I like to deploy their backups.
Yeah, and could there be, like, Dom Nichols is probably this guy, but is there like a role for the next TJ guy where it's like you're coming in spot duty? There is always a place on the field for a pretty good edge rusher with upside and explosion.
Yeah, I mean, saying a role for last year's Dom Nichols, I think Dom Nichols is going to be a star. Like,
I like it.
Dom Nichols is 6'6", 260.
These are a big edge rushing group on this Wolverines roster. The way I'm like just looking at this now and looking at some of this size, like Derek Moore, like gone are the days of Josiah Stewart. Derek Moore only 6'3", which is like Brandon Graham size, and then everybody else is 6'6".
Massive, dude. I mean, go to a guy who probably won't get drafted in Lugard Edokpe.
Yeah,
close enough. 6'7". Like might be a little too tall, but like it just speaks to the point. Like there's been an emphasis on body type, and honestly, it's probably been that way across the Big Ten, and why the Big Ten caught up to the SEC. But that's another podcast. All right, coming back to me, I'm gonna go with a guy actually I took late in spring draft in Channing Goodwin, sophomore wide receiver.
My next pick, good pick.
Like it was between he and Amarian Stewart. Amarian Stewart kind of got the buzz later last year and was kind of ahead of Goodwin just in the fictional hypothetical depth chart. But Goodwin really came on to start this year. It feels like it finally clicked for him. Got a lot of targets in the spring game. Didn't make a lot of plays. Preserved his red shirt last year. And I just like what he's bringing, man. I like what he did out there in the spring game. I like the way he runs routes. He looks like he's getting a lot more comfortable. And all indicators are that first year it really took him some time to just get his footing, get the maturation, and adapt to college. But now he's there.
Yeah, this was going to be my next pick. This is really good. There's often, like running backs, you got to watch some of these 3-star, 4-star guys. There are so many players at the wide receiver running back position that are vying to be recruited to Big Ten, to just Power 5 schools, that guys go under the radar, and guys are way better than you can imagine. They're going up against competition. It's difficult to gauge. And then they get to a good program. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy was not a 3-star. This guy was not a 4-star. This guy was elite. Channing Goodwin's a really good pick for that. I really like this pick for you. Could have gone earlier. I think we both wanted to go a little bit higher upside swings here, but I could see Channing Goodwin having some catches for Michigan this year. Again, a room where nothing is really set, That's
the thing where it's like a lot of these rooms are just kind of open, and it's like cream rises to the top, and one of these guys could just quickly sneak their way into the rotation.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you, man. All right. My next pick, I'm going to bet on Michigan development here. I'm going to go back to the defensive line. I'm going to take David Poly. I'm going to go to the defensive tackle position where Michigan is, I'll just say it, the best in the country at developing right now. You can argue with me, but you can go argue with your aunt or a wall if you want to. Like, I don't know who's better than Michigan at developing defensive tackles. And a big human being. Let me get the Poly stats here.
6'2", 335.
Large.
From Alaska.
Yeah. I mean, give me that combination right there. Like, this man grew up fending off polar bears, grizzly bears, like the cold, the harsh bite of winter. Like, this man is ready for a November game in Ann Arbor, like cold snow coming down. He's like, yes, finally. Like a husky, like when the snow starts falling, like, get me outside. Let me go be active. We haven't seen much right now. This is just projecting. This is just betting on Michigan's. I mean, there's guys in front of him. Both the two transfers from Clemson and Alabama are going to be ahead of him here. But we like to rotate. And one guy goes down. All of a sudden, this guy who's had a year in the system under Big Lou, under this Wink Martindale and this defensive staff. Yeah, I'm cool with this.
I like this a lot, too, because I think it's kind of forgotten that during his senior year of high school, he got injured 2 games into the season, like season ending. So I think that also kind of like limited him last year to be like, hey, like there's no need to rush. Like take your time, get fully back healthy, and now you kind of see what he wants to do. And like again, you bring in those veterans in there so you don't have to rush him into the action. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him so like get some run. Like kind of like Ike Awana did last year. He was on our radar to like break out. I mean, he was a little more experienced, but like I think there's a big upside here. And I really hope his name is pronounced like David or something cool like that.
David Pelli rolls the hell off the tongue. Does it not?
Rolls off the tongue. Okay. My last pick. I'm completely torn between 2 players in Jeremiah Lowe and Brady Prescorn. But since I already have a defensive back and I know Jeremiah Lowe got 2 picks in the spring game, room is so crowded. I can't double up there. So give me Brady Prescorn here. And I've always been more of a Hansen guy, but the talent is there with Prescorn. And coming off the injury last year, which kind of derailed, but I thought could have been like some bowl game experience for him or something valuable. But he's got the height, he's got the weight, 6'6", 245. He's a big kid. But what really sold me was the other day, Steve Kasula was on the Jansen pod and said, it's not if, it's when. He's like, Prescorn is just, he has it. And like, he's got to get out there. It's got to keep like, get healthy, get everything back acclimated. And the way, again, they like to rotate tight ends. No one knew who Jalen Hoffman was. I didn't. I mean, deep in the roster until I was breaking down USC tape. And I'm like, who is this guy blocking? I'm like, Jalen Hoffman? Like, who is this? So, like, they like to go deep in their bag with tight ends, rotate those guys, get in weird exotic packages and do different things. So I think you're going to see Prescorn on the field kind of a lot this season in a different role.
This would have been my number 1 pick if you weren't coming off the injury. I was a Prescorn over Hansen guy by the smallest of margins. Yeah. We are talking infinitesimal margins here. Both those guys I was really high on. This would have been my number 1 pick, but if we were mostly focusing on this year, I don't know. I just don't know. And like, hopefully he's good to go. It was kind of late. It was late in the season, wasn't it? Bowl practice.
Ohio State. It was in pregame warmups because you and I were hanging out, and it was like, oh, Prescorn just went down with a catastrophic injury and was carted off during warmups.
Yeah, we're like, we're never winning this thing.
That's a good sign. Ye of little faith.
Look, I have faith now. At this point,
I'm saying ye as in we, because I was there.
Oh yeah, the royal ye, the royal ye,
the royal ye. I was like, man, we were in trouble.
Yeah, we both were like, not a great sign. So I just don't know. I didn't know about the injury there, but this would have been my number 1 pick. I still believe in Prescorn. Still believe in the talent. His brother, excellent player. I love good bloodlines and younger brother energy. The guy that had to fight against his older brother growing up, be like, I got to scrap for everything. Love that. Absolutely love that. And there is some, I'm a little, we'll get to the tight end breakdown, which will probably be a fun finally debate for you and I, where we actually debate some things. I'm a little lower on the tight end room than you are. So I think they could use him this year personally.
Yeah. A lot of talent there. A lot of unproven talent.
A lot of talent.
But a lot of unproven talent. Once took a piss next to Brady Prescorn at the big house.
Good for you. That's good for you. Yeah.
I really didn't say anything to him because no man should speak to another man with while they're holding their own hog in a public restroom. But
was it Nietzsche that said that? I think it was a Nietzsche quote.
Voltaire.
My mistake. Misquoted.
Tony, our producer, said, Andy said, how's it hanging? Like, I did not do that. Otherwise, he'd probably be at Clemson or something right now. Of the guys not drafted, anybody still holding on to a little stock? So remaining names here are quarterback Jaden Davis, edge Lugard, Edakpe, did my best, defensive tackle Ted Hammond, wide receiver Amarian Stewart, interior offensive lineman Luke Hamilton, defensive tackle Manuel Beagle, offensive tackle Ben Roebuck, defensive back Jeremiah Lowe, linebacker Zach Ludwig.
Yeah, a couple guys there. Ted Hammond, I debated between Hammond and Pelly. I really did. Hammond higher rated there, but like there's just a history of some of these 3-star guys. Ike Awana was a great pull by you. It's just like, oh, really? I forgot we had this guy. Then all of a sudden they're coming in. And I mean, at one point, Rayshon Benny was that guy. You're just like, oh, dang, Rayshon Benny's contributing like late in this game. That's great to see. So I thought about Ted Hammond and I thought about Luke Hamilton as well for a lot of the same reasons. I like the development that we have on the offensive line. Luke Hamilton, another big dude. I mean, all these guys, we just don't recruit like small offensive linemen to the University of Michigan anymore. We don't recruit anybody that doesn't really have the body type anymore. Samaj Morgan's like the last guy where it's like,
Dude, Ben Roebuck is 6'7".
Good Christ, Ben Roebuck. What are they feeding you wherever you're from? Where's Ben Roebuck from?
He is from Cleveland, Ohio. Went to St. Ed's.
Oh, yeah. Oh, from St. Edwards. Okay. Yeah, I've seen St. Edwards play a couple times. Probably actually, we do the math. I think I've seen Roebuck play then.
That's awesome.
I should have put that together because I've seen Central versus St. Ed's before. So I should have picked Roebuck just because I've seen him play.
A couple for me, Amarian Stewart, Jeremiah Lowe. I was with you on Hamilton. That was one of the ones I kept going back and forth on. And I wish I could go Jaden Davis. I wish I could. Like, I do believe in him.
Jaden Davis.
I believe in him more than Jake Garcia. I can tell you that much.
Well, that's not saying much.
Believe in Rod Moore playing quarterback more than Jake Garcia.
I'm with you, brother, there. Yeah, man, this was a great exercise. And as we go through it, my big takeaway, if you had to pick a guy that's like a starter, maybe not even next year, but the following year, and a guy that's potentially a star, is there a star amongst this group?
I think a few people have star potential. I really do. If I had to give you three if I had to like rank them like in terms of I think they can really be stars, I would go Josiah Edmond, I would go Cole Sullivan, and I would go Jake Guaranera. Like 3 of our first 4 picks, to be honest.
I like Guaranera there. That's not one that I had identified. The first 2, we are in complete agreement. I would go Frazier over Guaranera just because the size of recruiting profile. He went up against really good competition playing in Texas. But I like this. I like that you're in on Guaranera. The coaching staff is in on Guaranera. So that's really generally a good way to go. And like worst case scenario, this guy's providing great depth. And then as like a 4th year or 5th year senior, it's like, oh, Guaranera got the spot. This is great. He's been there forever. Like this guy knows the playbook.
It could even be like a Trevor Keegan situation where Keegan didn't start the beginning of 2021. That was Chuck Filiaga. Yeah. Like, and against
Chuck Filiaga.
Yeah, against Nebraska that year, they rotated 5 different guards because they were still trying to figure it out and injuries were piling up. So like opportunity can create itself very fast for Guaranera and for Blake Frazier on the inside.
One thing I will also note about this class, it feels like there's more transfers coming from this class.
Yeah, 100%.
There's like, and I mean, that's not anything breaking or some crazy good analysis that happens across the country. But just looking at the rooms and where these guys were drafted and like Jacob Oden, like he's got to get on the field this year or I'm going to take a huge L. Now, thank God I've got some stock put away, some dividends from our TJ Guy stock. Like I'm doing fine. Don't worry about me and my family. We're fed. We've got housing. We've got shelter. We've got food from our TJ Guy stock. But I could take a big L on Jacob Oden if he doesn't hit this year, and that guy's probably transferring to Mizzou or something. Same could be said for one of the 2 edge rushers. I would be very surprised if Baxter and Lugard are both on this roster this time next year as we're doing this exercise.
Yeah. And honestly, sometimes though, you get the weird guys like Jaden Hood who just stick around and find a role and find a home at Michigan. And regardless if they're starting in their year 4 or not, like they like it here and they found a way to contribute.
Yep. I'm with you. Last question on this before we get out of here. More contributions overall from the sophomore class or the freshman class?
Oh, that's fun. Are we including the guys we couldn't draft?
Yes, we will. We will, because Bryce Underwood, you and I just said on this podcast, is the starting quarterback. Like, that's official.
Oh, I'm talking about the sophomores we couldn't draft.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I know. And that's what I'm saying is like, yeah, we have to include them because we have the starting quarterback in the freshman class.
I still think it's the sophomores.
Okay.
I do, just because if you think Sprague's the best offensive lineman, and I think Marshall's the best running back, and we think Hogan Hansen could be the leading receiver, and then you have Mason Curtis as a starting safety, that's a lot of like positions right there of high value, not to mention Dom Nichols being heavy in the edge rushing rotation.
I'm kind of with you. The battles that'll make or break that: Andy Babs versus Sprague or Link, and Shamari Earls versus Josiah Edmond. Those are the ones that I'm watching.
I think Earls is going to see the field this year. It just remains to be seen in what capacity.
Yes, I completely agree. And Josiah Edmond's the guy in this class that it's like, if someone's going to break free and be like a star in this group, that's the guy to keep an eye on. So I love this. Last little thing before we get out of here. I know you got to run. I sent you this, a text. This is somebody that we've been keeping an eye on, and I wanted to update our listeners on this because we need to be keeping an eye on him as a Michigan faithful, and that is going to be Donovan Webb. That is a just very versatile safety that Michigan has been keeping an eye on, plays in Michigan, and we saw this guy. My stepdad saw him play and said this is like Charles Woodson-esque. So keep an eye on this player. I'm very excited about this potential safety from Michigan. Yeah, man. So this was a great episode. Thank you for coming up with this idea. Really enjoyed it. We always love a good draft here. Certainly won't be the last one of the year. I'd say we got a good baker's dozen left in us, as well as some really good podcasts coming up. It's about time to start previewing position groups, opponents. We've got Zach Guggenheim coming on this podcast within the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk some Big Ten and definitely dive in to the state of the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry. We will give the State of the Union on that one. Maybe the most important Michigan-Ohio State podcast, collaborative, in a long time, being as how we're back-to-back national champs. The rivalry has taken the last two. What a great spot for the rivalry. Obviously, it'll be a little bit more contentious. We're friends here, but there's going to be some back and forth, some exchanges, a bit of a tete-a-tete, if you will. So can't wait for that. And then, yes, freshman spotlights coming. Position group breakdowns, Big Ten opponents. It's officially like, let's start covering the season time.
God, what getting into the team breakdowns and like going through the schedule is like when you and I really start like ramping up, because like as the playoffs end in the NHL and the NBA, and like we can just turn all of our focus onto college football, like just, oh man, it feels so real. But then it's like, oh, it's only July 15th. Like maybe we need to pace this a little bit better. But honestly, they're some of my favorite podcasts of the year. Like I really enjoy getting into it. Feels like you're building up to Christmas.
It really is, man, especially since we don't have sports. This is our sports for the week then. It's like, all right, there's nothing really going on, like unless you're like early season baseball, which
or a cycling fan like me, which is weird.
Yeah. I mean, we are psychopaths when it comes to this stuff. But for us, this gives us this scratches the itch as we're like, no. We're diving in, baby. Like, let's see what Northwestern's got. Let's see what what the Illinois, the Fighting Illini have. So looking forward to starting to break down the Big Ten and Michigan opponents as well. And yeah, brother, this was great. Anything else from you? Make sure you're following us on our socials. Tony, our producer, been doing the work. Shout out you, Tony. Go check us out on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. It's going to be Out of the Blue Sports or OOTB Sports. You should be able to find us. We are out here. We ain't hiding. What else you got, brothers, before we get out of here?
Shoot us any mailbag questions you got. The more outrageous hypothetical, the better. Anything else we can dive into, if it's about Michigan, if it's about film, if it's about life, if it's about anything, shoot it our way. We'd love to chop it up for you.
We love it. That's going to do it for Out of the Blue this week. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow us on all our socials. The next giveaway for t-shirts and other merch should be coming soon. So we appreciate it. I am Jared. That's Andy. This is Out of the Blue. We'd like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue.